internet-based communication, while valuable, just does not replace that need that we have for that interpersonal human-to-human connection in physical spaces with one another. There's something about that that is just intrinsically different.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to episode 82 of the Sandbox.Space, the Sandbox.Space weekly podcast. I'm your host, Chris, joined as always by Pumpkin, who's over there, baby girl, who's taking a nap. And every week, of course, we have a special guest. This week's guest is Caleb Eno. How are you doing, Caleb?
I am just happy to be here, Chris.
Oh, that's good. That's a good place to be. I realized I spelled, gotta change your title real fast. We're doing it live. Awesome. Well, Caleb, you are a man of many talents. Besides the sort of development and design end, you also have, we were talking about it, you have a narrative interest in games, and you have a podcast. I don't know if you want to talk about that real fast, let people know.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm one of the co-hosts for the Pages of Play podcast. So we're a narrative podcast, or a gaming narrative podcast, sorry. So if it's in the format of what we would call like a book club style podcast. So book club style podcast will typically be once a month or once a quarter. They'll have a book that they they'll read as a community, and then people will submit their questions, and then there will be an episode kind of discussing and going through those questions. So we do that, but we do that for game narratives. So we've had a pretty cool lineup. Let's see, our Old Skies episode was Wadget Eye Games. So like they're kind of the best point and click adventure people these days, and so they had a really good one that we're in the process of recording and getting that out. And the one we're working on playing right now is Expedition 33, or Claire Obscure, the game, of course, which won so many or is purported to win many awards in the coming award season. So
it's well regarded.
I have well regarded, highly regarded. I have been really enjoying that. It's very, very interesting. I just like from a mechanical perspective too, because like dodging and parrying is such a and it's all about timing and like finding the right timings of things, which is kind of an interesting take on the turn-based RPG, kind of JRPG style combat and stuff. But it was actually, I had a period where I started it and then I stopped for a while, and it came back to it was absolutely garbage at the dodging and parrying parts. I'd like relearn how to play the game on the fly, but it was good. Just the opening sequence of that game is incredible. I'm weeping within the first 20 minutes of the game. It's a good time. It's a good time.
Well, before we went on, I'd mentioned that I try to play one longer game, and I usually do it during winter when we're not going out and doing things. And so I think that's going to be my game for this winter. But I've got a host of other things. Outer Worlds 2 is coming out. I'm excited about that. It's funny you mentioned we had Game Club going for a while where we did something similar. We called it a book club for games, and we'd try to find a game that was 4 to 8 hours long, something busy people could do. And then very similarly, try to have a video at the end of it. Haven't done that in a while because I haven't just haven't had the time. But I've been thinking about maybe bringing that back, depending on how the world treats me over the next few months here.
And we do try to mix them up too, because we played Banisher's Ghost of Eden, and that I think I played that game for 86 hours or so, which was probably a way above and beyond what I needed to, but just for the podcast. But so I can't commit to an 86-hour game every month. So we definitely try to intersperse our big ones, one or two a year, because otherwise it's just way too much.
Yeah. And there's just so much stuff. Oh my God, Pumpkin. Here's Pumps. Just wants to say I don't know. She's being her. Okay. So we got a lot to talk about today. Just real fast before we get into too much. This is just a little community thing for those of you who might be in the Borderlands world. We've got, let me turn this on while fighting a cat. We got some shift keys here. There's new shift codes. So if you're playing Borderlands, there's a variety of them, and some of these expire in the next couple of days. So Feel free to get your various what do they call them, the gold keys, the shift gold, yeah, golden keys, and some other skins and such. So make sure to do that. But we're going to talk about quite a few things. But first, I just wanted to talk about this. This is kind of, since we've been on the AI train for a while here, and I don't think the AI train's going anywhere. Boom. This is off of Kotaku from Ethan Gach. This was published today, actually. OpenAI is getting ready to unleash erotica for verified adults. A big sexting update is coming to ChatGPT in December. Sam Altman teased on X this week. We made ChatGPT pretty restrictive to make sure we're being careful with the mental health issues. Realized this made it less usable / enjoyable for many users who had no mental health problems. But given the seriousness of the issues, we wanted to get this right. Having unfurled the aircraft carrier mission accomplished sign despite ongoing wrongful death suits, Altman says it's time to embrace easily outmaneuvered age verification tools and treat people like grown-ups. In December, as we roll out age gating more fully, and as a part of our treat adult users like adults principle, we will allow even more like erotica for verified adults, he concluded. It sounds like a $1 trillion bubble is going to be back. Oh my God. It sounds like the $1 trillion bubble is going to back the chatter and more sycophantic version of ChatGPT that paying users got hooked on earlier this year. So, Caleb, what are our thoughts? Do we think that AI, ChatGPT and AI can properly age verify and protect the world?
Man, as I'm sort of overwhelmed by how awful I think that this is. Well, I mean, it's just like, if we kind of like almost take a step back from like the specific like erotica or porn conversation, like one of the biggest things that we have as a, you know, you hear this referred to all the time as the loneliness epidemic, right? Like some people who are lacking connection with other people, and it seems to be proven again and again that like internet-based communication, while valuable, just does not replace that need that we have for that interpersonal human-to-human connection in physical spaces with one another. There's something about that is just intrinsically different than digital communication. And so this seems like just like another step in the wrong direction of like genuine human intimacy, genuine human connection. And I don't think pornography solves any of that. I think it hurts in interpersonal communications. It creates like wrong expectations about what people want out of things. And then also now this is just sort of like a step even deeper into the hole, where it's like creating dependencies and weird, like, you know, why bother dealing with a real person when I can have something that's just going to cater to whatever I want dynamically. And it's just like, I feel like science fiction has been teaching us this for decades, that this is not a good thing.
I feel like art and literature has been teaching us a lot of things for generations, hundreds of years. And for some reason, humans are just really bad at taking the note. Yeah. I mean, I found this interesting. I'm a big fan of treating adults like adults, but I also think that AI has social media sort of algorithms, AI, it has this corrupting power to it. And I think we're seeing that more and more. You know, people keep talking about this. You mentioned the loneliness epidemic, but also, you know, misinformation and things like that. And, you know, I've seen the beginnings of it as a teacher, where some students will just automatically jump to AI and they never cross-reference or cross-check any of the sources. We talked about this a little bit last week with Garrett, but like one of the issues with AI is like, now we have AI models being trained on AI models, and there's no actual real meaningful, they'll say there is, but there's just too much data being analyzed too quickly to have any real checking on its validity. Like there's no real validation checking on a lot of this stuff. And that's on top of that we kind of live in a post-truth society, unfortunately, anyway.
Well, yeah. Yes. And then the thing is that it's marketed like I know it's got those little tags at the bottom saying don't trust anything by ChatGPT, but like it like the LLMs they are communicated as being like a good source of information. Like they're marketed like that. If you use our tool, then you can accomplish this, or you can do this, or you can learn about this, or you can do this other thing. And so like yeah, like there is sort of the legalese of like, this stuff isn't necessarily verifiable. Make sure you check all of the information. Nobody's doing that. Like if you
Sure.
go on and you search and you ask a question and the AI generates a prompt for you, or not a prompt, for like an answer for you on Google or Bing or whatever, and it's there and you read it, it's the first thing you read, you're like, oh, that's my answer, and you click away. No one's going to go verify that. They just assume that that's correct. And so it's so easy for misinformation to be just
Yeah.
populated anywhere.
Which is wild. I've been thinking about this, particularly as I'm kind of running in Senate and being involved in politics stuff. And I've just been thinking about, because like the second I see any AI answer, my natural inclination is to cross-reference and check the answer. Like that is my go-to response. I just don't trust any of this shit, right? And it's the same thing with like websites and everything. I'm always cross-referencing stuff. And I'm thinking back, because like this is not an inherent part of Christopher Volpe being special in any way. Like it is a skill set that has been developed and cultivated over my 44 years. And I'm just like, where did that start? Like, was it school? Was it parents? And I don't have the answer, like maybe someday when I die and I'm at the pearly gates and I'm rewatching my life, I'll be able to figure it out. But I'm just curious, because like, if you don't even know how to cross-reference information and look for validity. I mean, I listen to a lot of podcasts. I talk to a lot of people, and the number of folks that think that anecdotal evidence, like, oh, my dad did this, and so that must be true, that think that that is a legitimate source of any kind of validation is wild. And that's, not even counting the fact that in the United States here, it's like 20 to 25% of our adult population is functionally illiterate. So like,
Well, and I'm in the reading education space. This is this is a absolutely huge problem, all over the place. And Ogstar Reading, the company I work for, we have an app that teaches kids how to read. Like it's a thing that we know is a problem when we are trying to work towards solutions to this. But you're not wrong; it is a big problem.
yeah, and I think you hit on two things. I mean, we could talk about the issues around AI, but I think larger socially, societally, like I keep saying this, I think we have failed our children. And you're someone that has young children that are in the thing. I think we have failed our children. I always say that like it really sucks that like most of our kids never get a chance to like see or use their brilliance because of just of our system. But it's even worse than that, because most of our kids don't even ever realize their brilliance. They're never put in a situation where they are sort of pushed and forced to look at something where they realize like, oh, how good they could be at something, And I think it's the shame. And these AI models, last week, Garrett said this, I don't have any data to back this up, but he said like, I think about 40% of the US economy is currently propped up by AI and AI adjacent things. And you see that like in the stock market. And like we are in a place where so much money is being shoveled into these technologies. Like it's like a train barreling down the tracks. And like these companies have to keep the train going, because if the train stops, their companies collapse. And so they are just shoveling money into these trains, and they don't know where the train is going. They don't know how fast it's going to get. Half of these people don't even understand. Like some of these AI models are like literally black boxes. Like information goes in and information comes out. And even the people that create them aren't 100% sure on what's happening in between. So
it's funny.
Good.
About that specific thing, my wife and I have this running joke about the AI, is that it's like this is a Bible joke, but in the Old Testament, there's the golden calf incident, and kind of giving a justification for why the calf got created. Aaron is like, I don't know, we just threw the gold in the fire and out came this calf. And this is kind of like how we think about AI all the time. It's like, I don't know, we just threw stuff in the black box and out came this LLM, just
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. But you also hit on two things. I always try to bring things down to the personal, because I think we can get caught in the craziness of the noise. But yeah,
Oh,
this
for
this
sure.
loneliness epidemic and sort of personal communication. When I was growing up back in my day, uh, I grew up. So I was born in '81, and so I grew up at like the beginning of the internet. And I remember when we had AOL, and then eventually we got broadband, I think in like maybe the mid to late 90s. Um, and you had things like Ventrilo and BattleNet and other communication platforms, even AOL chat, but they were all like kind of augments to your normal day to day life, And now it seems like a lot of this is just like the primary mode of communication. And obviously I think COVID had a big part in this as
Sure.
well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been noticing that as, again, this is anecdotal, so I'm sort of violating my own principle here, but it's just for the purposes of conversation. I'm not trying to create a white paper here, certainly not creating a multi-billion-dollar corporation based on it. But the more and more that the news, the internet, information becomes kind of untrustable, the more I see people, at least in my sphere, wanting to just go back to pure person-to-person communication. Just wanting to go back and let's have an event. Like, let's go and watch, I don't know, the OSU Buckeyes at a friend's house. Let's go out to these just like different events. They don't have to be anything too crazy, expensive, or sophisticated. Let's go to a friend's house and play a video game. Like, it seems like that is becoming more and more common. And I'm just wondering if youngins, if kids and young adults are also kind of experiencing that as well. Just the desire to get back to something that's maybe a little bit more rooted in real connection, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I don't have any data on this at all, but like, I feel like it varies probably from community to community and groups of people to groups of people. Cause like, I know I personally am feeling that same craving of like having interpersonal communication, actually meeting with people. And I have some regular weekly things like that of like church and small groups and things, but like I am craving that also of like, I mean, I work at home. I'm at home all the time. I get to spend a lot of time with my family, which is really nice, but I don't leave my house very often.
Mm-hmm.
And so just like getting out and like being with people and hanging out and chatting, having a drink, like something like that is just, it's so valuable. And I do feel like I miss that to a degree. And so, I think I've heard both, right? Like I've heard there are groups of younger people who are kind of like rejecting the over technologification of their lives and wanting to have those more interpersonal connections, corporeal communication. And then I also hear the other statistics about like how many people are totally absorbed in their phones and like how bad it is to like give your 12-year-old a cell phone and just like you kind of start them on that path and what that does to their brains and like how it affects them and things. So there's man, it is a messy world out there right now with technology.
I walked by and again, like, this is just my experience. It doesn't necessarily mean anything. And I don't want to put my biases on other people, but I was running the other day in the morning, and it was school pickup time. And I just noticed that, like, as I was walking by, there was all these, like, I know it's younger kids, like, not below, like, middle school and below. And the number of people, kids, but mostly parents, who are just at the bus stop on their phones, just like absorbed into this device. And I was like, I get being a parent's exhausting. Sometimes you just want to have a place you can like zone out. But like, you're only going to have so many taking your kids to the school bus stop days, like it just seems like we're missing a lot of these moments that make life. And one of the things I've noticed personally, stop pumpkin, is that, dude, I just can't remember shit anymore. like like the past 15 years, I can recall like I bet if I sat down with a coffee and a notebook, I could probably recall at best 10% of my past 15 years. And like that's wild to me. And I think a lot of it is because I'm absorbed into technology. I'm on phones, and you spend 15 minutes on your phone scrolling through social media, and then you walk away. Did you learn anything? Are you better for it? Like your brain's not committing any of that to memory because it's not worth committing. So I'm kind of like, well, if your brain is telling you, not that our brains are always perfect vehicles for information, but if your brain's telling you this is not worth remembering, maybe that should be a sign to us that it's not worth spending time on, you know?
Yeah, and I've definitely like over the last 5 years, like my social media use has really dropped. The only one that I actually use with regularity, and I use it with more regularity than I should, is YouTube, and I'm watching YouTube all of the time, which is not like, and that's not any better really. But I'm like Facebook. I never on Facebook pretty much at all. I never really got into Twitter. Blue Sky is just like a thing I've heard about, like I never got into TikTok or anything like that, but like I have felt that, and I wanted to kind of push it away, with YouTube being the one very glaring red exception to that rule. But the bus stop thing is really interesting too, because I feel like this is a thing that I have been noodling on for my own life, is I'm not great at this, but trying to pay attention to when is it that I'm getting the impulse to pull out my phone, and paying attention to when that impulse hits. And it's actually, it's a lot. Like I have the impulse a lot of the time, and just like waiting for something to build, which is only going to take like 30 seconds, but I don't want to, I'm just kind of sitting there. So I pull up my phone, and just like paying attention to all of these moments when I'm getting that impulse to go pull up my phone and being like, man, I need to like stop. And sometimes I can. Sometimes I'm like, I see there's the impulse, and I'm going to intentionally choose not to look at my phone in this moment. I feel like it's more rare that happens than I actually successfully do that.
Yeah. Yeah. What it really is people talk about like video games and things like gambling and stuff. And it's like, well, when is the time that like you are the most excited? When are the time you're most like into that kind of activity? And people are like, oh, it's when you pull the lever on the slot machine and you win big. It's like, no, it's not that. It's the anticipation of pulling the lever. And that's what our phones grab, is because anticipation is, it's universal and it's infinite. So you can always be in a state of anticipation, and that's what our phones are capturing and grabbing us. And so it's like whenever there's like any, remote moment of boredom, then our brains are like, okay, fill the gap with something. And like, well, I'll just pick up my phone. And I've noticed too, like sometimes I'll be playing a video game, and then I'm also on another screen listening to a YouTube show.
Right.
And then like if I'm at a loading screen, I might be like checking, because I also try not to do social media. I'm really bad at it, but because of my Senate thing, I kind of have all those accounts. But I've noticed that like I've been checking them kind of constantly now, where I'm just like checking like every 5 or 10 minutes. I'll be like, I'll go through, Twitter, Blue Sky, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. I'll just kind of go through the whole list of them. And I was like, I don't need to do that. Like even for the Senate thing, like there's nothing that's happening on these devices, or these platforms rather, that can't wait an hour, like, and so I'm really trying to get myself into that space, because that just constant dopamine need. And I just noticed like I'm not as creative anymore. Part of it's because I'm not doing as many creative activities, but I think boredom is a really important part of creativity, giving your brain a chance to think through things. Absolutely. Work on ideas. And I'm not anymore. And I agree with you. Like I watch YouTube a lot. I've got the YouTube Premium or whatever it's called, but I do, and maybe I'm just rationalizing to myself, so you can slap my wrist, but I do tend to watch stuff on YouTube that tends to be like longer form and more informative. So I watch news, I watch political stuff, so I can stay up to date on that, since I know that for the campaign. But then, like, I've been watching this Resident Evil retrospective, and each video, there's like 25 videos, and each one's like 30 minutes to an hour and a half, and they do like really deep dives into the process of making the game and stuff. And so I try to watch things that I actually think are informative and can help me. And then, of course, it goes back to the AI thing. Like, I noticed on some of the short form stuff like TikTok, there's all these like videos of like a baby being attacked by a bear, and then like a cat jumps at the bear. Like, that's the latest form. Or there's the one with like the large woman who's like being craned away, and the crane always breaks and like she falls to the floor or whatever. And just like, you can see this regurgitated like same nonsense over and over again. I was like, my brain doesn't need that.
The word slop is so perfect, honestly. Yeah. The fact that we use the word slop for this AI stuff is just chef's kiss. Absolutely, this is the right word. You were mentioning boredom.
Go ahead.
I just want to have one comment on that. So one thing that we actually talk with our kids about is occasionally, one of them go, I'm bored. And we're like, okay, well, boredom is a problem for you to solve. And so like you can go solve that problem. They think through some ideas of how you can solve the problem. And I think that's something probably I need to hear. Yeah. Almost more than my children need to hear. Because they're actually really good at solving their own boredom.
Yeah. I mean, I think boredom is like it is a step on the process of creativity and fun and new experiences. And I get it. Like, it's hard when you're an adult, because sometimes you're just like, oh, I'm bored, but you're also exhausted. And it's like the energy necessary to get you out of that bored state sometimes just seems like too much. I totally get that.
That makes me think of another thing I was going to say earlier, which is that, but you were talking about that, like that anticipation and how it's like constantly sort of like feeding you this thread of anticipation. One of the other problems with that, and I don't have any research behind this, but I feel like there probably is some, is that is a stressful state for you to be in. And so it's sort of, yes, it's that thing that's kind of leading you forward and is compelling you to do that to get those dopamine hits, but it's also leaving you in a state where you're constantly, perpetually in a state of stress, waiting for the resolution. And then the resolution just leads into another set of anticipation. And so you're just constantly stressing your body out too. I think that's a thing that takes its toll as well.
Yeah, totally. Also, I mean, just in general, we are all, I was talking about this morning, but we are all, particularly Americans, just sort of in this high anxiety state right now. There's the political world, there's, worries about danger, and sort of violence and stuff. And then there's also, the business world is just so uncertain. So it's just like, am I going to keep my job? We were talking about, on our team meeting for Multivarious. So we have been a part of the ACA, the Obamacare Small Business Exchange for our insurance for 14 years. And if this bill goes through, like the risk of our insurance increasing by an estimated average of 80 to 130%, like, that's in the back of my mind. Like, I can't more than double our healthcare costs. Like, that's wild. Our business can't take that. And so there's just all these like little things that are just weighing on our shoulders all the time. And so I think that goes back to the connection. And I want to bring that into our main topic for today. But before I do that, I'm going to ask you a little question. And I don't know if you know this, or, I mean, no one knows this, but just if you have any thoughts on it. So Steve Jobs, founder of Apple, he released the iPhone. I bought the first iPhone on my birthday in 2007. That's the day it came out, on my birthday.
Oh, wow.
Fast forward, 17 years now? He died in 2011 or 2010? Where do you think he would be on this? Like, he was a contrarian by nature. He was, I mean, the Think Different campaign, all of that stuff. He was like very anti big corporations, which is weird since, Apple's one of the largest corporations in the world. But, he had this sensibility and this desire. Do you think, where do you think he would be right now on these things? It's a complete guess, right? You're not Steve Jobs' best friend or anything, but as someone who's been in the tech space and, somebody
I'm
who
largely unfamiliar with him, actually.
Oh, okay. But he created, and remember, like I remind folks, there was no app store for the first like year and a bit of iPhones. Like he was like, oh, we'll do web apps and you can do everything on the web. And people are like, oh no, you need individual apps. And so he kind of gave in, which obviously was an important like business decision because that created their app store and everything.
Right.
But yeah, I'm curious as like being this weird contrarian guy, would he be stepping out and saying things on this? Would he be, or is the machine just too big? Would it even swallow up Steve Jobs himself?
Yeah, I'm not really sure if I have anything meaningful to contribute to that conversation. Like
Sure.
I was like, I'm not even. I mean, I'm obviously familiar with like the technological innovations that he spearheaded, but there's just even a lot. Like I haven't even seen because there was a documentary, right? Like or not a documentary, but like
yeah. There's three main movies. There's I always get them confused. I think it's Steve Jobs is the Ashton Kutcher one, I think, which is not very good. Then there's Jobs, which is the I think it was David Fincher, right? And Aaron Sorkin. And that one's really actually good. And then my personal favorite is Pirates of Silicon Valley, which was like a made-for-TV movie starring Noah Wyle.
Oh, okay.
I really like that one. It's a little cheesy and, shows its age since it was made 25 years ago or whatever. But those are the three things. And then Walter Isaacson wrote a book about him. So I would recommend reading that book, just if anybody has any interest in kind of him as a person and the starting of Apple. Because, for me, like, I think Steve Jobs, he was known to be an asshole, particularly in his early days.
Right.
But he also, you can't deny that like he was a visionary in the simplest sense of the word, which is he saw the world the way it could be, and he pushed people to make that happen. And, maybe he didn't push them in the best way or the most considerate way, we'll say. However, I mean, you can't deny that Apple, in particular Steve Jobs, look at the design sensibilities of every product nowadays. They are all based around Apple. Modern web design is based around a lot of Apple's design aesthetics. Sure. The user interface, man. And growing up in the 80s and 90s, dude, computers sucked. They were so just garbage user experiences. And just to have something that was based around like, what do users want? And even today, like Apple, I mentioned this because this blows people's minds, but like everyone's so like DRM copy protection focused nowadays, but like Apple will literally remove DRM from software. They would prefer that the user experience be good and not have all these like dongles and things that you have to do. Obviously their music and their movies, because those are contractually based around the companies that they are licensing that content from. But so, like their own software doesn't have any DRM on it. Their OS is free. Every time they do an OS upgrade, it's free.
Right.
And so there's definitely that like ethos is still in the Apple ecosystem.
Right. Well, and there's no denying that the products that they created changed the world. I mean, the iPhone changed the world, like it in the most literal sense possible. Like,
yes,
absolutely changed everything. And I don't necessarily think that the phone as it exists today was what's the word I'm looking for? Like an inevitability. Like I think it could have gone any number of possible directions, but it all follows that direction. And it certainly undeniably changed everything.
Yeah.
Lots of conversation that we even had about whether that was a good thing or not, but it did change everything.
Yeah. I think it's like most things. I think it's a little bit good, a little bit bad.
Sure.
For me, it really distills this idea around like free market enterprise, which is if you give a system absolute autonomy to do whatever it wants, it will always trend towards the path of least resistance on the incentive structures. And in the world we live in, that's money, right? So it will always trend towards whatever creates the most money, which is not always the most value. I know we tend to use money and value interchangeably in the business world, but there is plenty of I forget. I was reading something where I think, geez, I'll have to look it up, but it was like something like 30, upwards of 40% of jobs in the U.S. marketplace are like junk ghost jobs. They don't really serve that much value. They just exist to exist because our economy requires people to be doing things and generating income and spending that income. But like the job itself doesn't really do much. But I think it also reinforces what is clearly stated in Wealth of Nations, the handbook of the free market, that the free market needs guardrails. It needs regulations to make sure it doesn't get out of hand. And I think we've seen that several times in the app world where shit just got crazy and we're like, okay, we need to pull things back a little bit.
This reminds me of a great metaphor that I heard once. It was a metaphor for creativity actually, but it was the idea that boundaries are actually something that lets people like experience greater degree of creativity. So this was an actual study, I believe it was with children, that they went and they surveyed children's playing on various playgrounds, and they included playgrounds with and without an exterior wall. And so children who played on playgrounds without an exterior wall tended to gravitate together towards the middle, whereas children playing on playgrounds that had a wall would spread out a lot more throughout the entire space of the playground. And it was just that boundary created a known limitation, which then allowed you to explore the space more fully. It's probably one of the reasons like a blank page can be terrifying. Yeah. But a prompt can be a guiding light to like kind of get you to go into somewhere interesting. Like, here's a 2-sentence prompt, and then you can kind of like go from there. It gives you some sort of like guiding boundaries to organize your thoughts around. Totally. And I think that's kind of what the free market thing sounds like too, is just like, it's always going to go, like water down a wash. It's always going to find the path of least resistance. Whereas like maybe something that's has those guardrails, has some regulations around it, actually creates the environment for more interesting creative problems to solve and more interesting innovations.
Well, I mean, with that blank page thing, I mean, that's where you just get ChatGPT. It'll take care of it for you. It'll write your book for you. And I think also part of, I mean, just in the free market kind of idea in general, but there are people that when they gain power and influence will use that to construct the market in the way that they want. So on one argument, you could be like, well, that's not the free market. I'd be like, I agree with you. Having people modify and corrupt the free market is not the free market. But the larger important issue here is that without guardrails and protections, that's an inevitability that will occur, is when people get access to those things. And I think we're sort of seeing that in a lot of ways. But okay, well, let's talk about connection for a little bit here. So we are in the process behind the scenes of bringing back the Sandbox.Space, our incubator, as a digital product. So for those that don't know, the Sandbox.Space was an incubator that we hosted in a partnership with the Idea Foundry here in Columbus. And we did that for, I think about 3 years, a little over 3 years. And then COVID hit. And, eventually it got to the point where we're like, well, we've got this office space. We can't come to it. Nobody's going to anything. So we just sort of shut the incubator down. And looking back, it's sort of like a double thing here, double-edged sword, where part of me is like, I regret that we never converted the incubator at that time into a digital one. But at the same time, we were also in the middle of COVID. Business was real rough. I was going through a separation from my wife. Like, we had a lot going on where I was just like, we'll just shut it down and not worry about it. But the team and I have been kind of sitting around thinking, okay, well, I think now more than ever, bringing that connection together is important. Also, there's a lot of people in the workspace that are just losing their jobs and they need, some help and support. But then we're seeing a rise in indie studios. And one of the big things that, as somebody who's helped, create and grow hundreds of businesses, the main thing that I come across again and again and again is that you've got really talented, passionate developers and artists and designers and, writers don't know anything about running a business. They've never run a business before. It's like they don't even know where to start, what questions to ask, all that kind of stuff.
Totally different skill set.
Yep. So what we are thinking about doing, well, not what we are thinking, what we are doing is we're going to bring back the digital one. So our current plan, don't hold us to this, but our current plan is we're spending the rest of October getting the underpinnings ready. You technically can join the Discord now if you want to, the Sandbox.Space Discord. But we're getting the underpinnings done. And then in November, we will be accepting anybody who wants to come in on the free tier. And then in December, we will be starting up the paid tier. And we are creating a professional development community for game developers and creative technology for people that are serious about it. And I think that's one of the things. There's lots of game dev groups, including like COG, thecog.com, COGG. So join those. But we wanted to create a space for folks that are willing to take that like little bit of an extra step in being like, okay, I'm going to treat this like a real thing. Maybe I'm a hobbyist. Maybe I'm new to it. Maybe I'm a student. I don't quite know where to go, but this is something I want to do. And Caleb, you have been helping us in addition to being a lead at COG. You've also been a lead volunteer for many, 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 many years at GDEX. And you have been helping to sort of moderate the Sandbox Discord for a little bit now. But I figured it'd be kind of fun to talk about, okay, well, what can we build in this ecosystem? And if there's people in chat that want to chime in, feel free. But, a large part of it is connection, just connecting devs. Because like you said, like a lot of folks are in your boat where they work from home. They work on games on the side. They never leave the house. And so just being able to like talk to other people or like, hey, I'm encountering this error in Unity. Can anybody like take a look at this real quick and give me some advice? And then of course there's mentorship and all sorts of other things we can get into. But figured starting just out with the connection of a nice professional community seemed like a good place for this conversation to start. So take it away, Caleb.
Yeah, man, I think this is a fantastic question, and it's certainly like as a community organizer for COG, like the question of how do we form a community is a constant question. Like is a question that we have to continually reevaluate and think about all the time. I will say that just to like brag on the COG community for a minute, there's such a great community just on their own. Like there's just really wonderful, delightful people in Ohio who love making games, who just want to hang out and talk and like share their skills and knowledge with one another. For us on the admin team, it's almost like effortless to some degree. It's not like we never have to do anything, but there's so much good community there. So like just being a good community member goes such a long way to creating a good community. So just that's just broadly anybody who's looking to be a part of a community, I highly recommend just the more that you are a positive impact on the community impacts the entire community in a super positive way. So just like my heart and love to all of the COD people, because you make it all just a delight. It's interesting because I've actually recently been a part of another, there was a podcast hosting website that recently created like a public Slack channel you could join, and they've been trying to kind of like build more of a community.
You know what
that
place is called, where people could find it?
Yeah, so it's RSS.com, their podcast community. And so I've been kind of like, I joined their Slack channel once they first created it. And one of the things that I've noticed there is there's, because of course, like RSS is a business, and their business that they're promoting is they have a place where you can host your podcast episodes and they can distribute it to all of the distributors. We use it for my wife's podcast. It's a really nice platform. I do think it's a really good platform, but watching this community build has been really interesting because they've actually run into a bunch of challenges with it. I think this is relevant specifically with the Sandbox being more of that business focused. No, the Sandbox is going to be smaller by default. This blew up very quickly because they have a lot of people on their platform. And one of the things I noticed was that a lot of people were just looking at this as another opportunity to promote themselves. And so
Mm-hmm.
the promotions channel is just like new episode, new episode, new episode, new episode. It's just an absolute just
Yeah.
chaotic thread of 100,000 messages of all of these new episodes that people are launching and things. And there's just sort of like every single person on that platform is sort of like trying to promote themselves, but what promoting themselves looks like is posting about themselves, information, specifically just information about themselves and about what they're doing in as many places as possible. And this sort of became a dumping ground for a lot of that kind of content. And to their credit, they've been trying to kind of like limit that or like contextualize that better. When new people, there's like an introduce yourself page. They've been trying to kind of like, they know certain people who are in different like verticals, different like genres podcasts. So they'll be like, hey, here's these other people who are also doing similar things to you, and they're trying to kind of like build that cross connection and communication. But I think it's just been a really big challenge to actually build something that's a community as opposed to just like another place that people are posting all of the information about
Yeah.
their stuff,
Yeah.
but not actually investing into any degree. So that's definitely like when you have that more business thing, because when you're business, there's always that element of like, I do need to sell things because I need to make money because this is how I survive and continue to make the things that I'm making, which far better than I do because I have never owned a business. But I think that's an aspect of like moving into like opening up the Sandbox.Space again is like, how do you, instead of just like becoming a dumping ground for people to like promote themselves, like what does it actually like build that community, that connection, and it's probably more what you're doing is like starting small and then building up from there. And it sort of begins with a pool that is already a community.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's something you get to invite people into, as opposed to just being as like, here's a place for you to put your stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it really depends on what you're doing too. Cause at some point, having a track record, like the fact that GDEX has existed for 14 years,
Absolutely.
COG has existed even longer than that. And COG, we used to host the COG meetings in our office at Multivarious for years and years and years. And so like that combined a lot of different groups. Like, I think it added legitimacy to have a group in a business that was doing this for a living. And so people could see, meet with other people, but also see that this is a doable thing. But yeah. I think because I hear you too. Like when we try to promote GDEX and stuff, one of the big barriers that we always run into is like, hey, we want to let folks know about this. And like on Reddit and stuff, like they'll be like, well, you need to post a certain number and have a certain number of karma in the community or whatever. I was like, dude, I get what you're trying to do, but like, I ain't got time to spend months and months and months in your community because you're one community out of tens of thousands, right? And so it's a difficult position from someone who's trying to market themselves because like I'm going to these groups and being like, look, I think GDEX is a very valuable resource for your group and community. And obviously I'm a little self-serving because this is my thing and I'm trying to talk about it. But I still think it would be important for your audience to be aware of. And some people are receptive to that. Some people in Discords are receptive to that. It really is challenging. But I mean, ultimately, I think that connection for people who are willing to give a little bit into the community and start being a part of it, as opposed to someone that's just trying to, and I think for us, that's why the paid gap is important, where it shows a level of interest where, we're not going to get inundated with, 1,000 different studios trying to just promote whatever they're working on, or artists looking for contract work. The people that will be in the ecosystem are people that have paid in, which, like a gym or anything else you pay into generally means you're going to want to be more involved in it. And then that way, this goes on to something you mentioned at the beginning of your comment, is how hard it is to sort of build and maintain those communities over time.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of folks because there are so many free game dev communities, there are people that are like, well, I'll just go to one of the free ones. I was like, you are welcome to do that. But the nice thing about being part of a paid community is that there will be people on staff whose job it is, because they are getting paid through those subscriptions, to make sure that the community is good, and that people that are doing, like a GDEX, when a game gets released, we like to acknowledge it. And so making sure that new releases or, big promotions or whatever are being pushed out over our channels. That's a lot easier when somebody like you, who's busy with family and work, adding another volunteer experience to your resume. As much as you might love the community and want to help, it becomes harder and harder. So I think having access to money through subscriptions will allow us to bring people on. It will also allow us to pull in mentors. Like, we've got great mentors in our ecosystem.
We do.
And they are really willing to help. And to be honest, like, they've helped, at GDEX, it's very, very rare that I pay for a speaker. Like, people just like coming to GDEX. I might cover like hotel and travel, but like a speaking fee is pretty rare, because people are just excited to come and they like the community and the environment. But ultimately, at the end of the day, if I'm asking, somebody like, I don't know, like Ross Hirschman from Loading Law, he's a lawyer. If I'm asking him to come and do like a 2-hour workshop / Q&A, like, that's a sizable ask for the week, and he teaches as well, and he does other things. So being able to pay him for those videos that he's creating helps out him. It helps out the community. And so I think I'm pretty excited about this. Our mentor network, like I said, I think is really great. So just being able to connect to people. I mean, hell, you think of like look at like Marcus Cincy. That dude's got like almost 40 AAA games under his belt, and now he's working on his indie studio.
Absolutely.
Like Jason Conaway, who's been in the AAA space for eons. And what's really cool is the breadth of people we have. I feel like I'm not trying to do a sales pitch here, but I just think it's just the nature of what we've
true. These are
cultivated.
true things. Yeah.
Yeah. Like Jason Conaway is like, I think he is a top tier engineer. Like he has worked on some of the biggest. I mean, he worked on League of Legends for eons, like as a lead developer. Marcus Cincy is an art director, and so he's worked on all sorts of titles, AAA titles, as an art director and an artist. And then we've got other folks that are coming in from lots of different angles, marketing, quality assurance, all that. Our QA person, Chris Humphreys, who I think you've met before, but she.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so she was a QA person at Naughty Dog for many years, and now is a QA lead at Studio Santa Monica, like two of the best studios in the world. So like the fact that you can get access to all these things is really important, because then you kind of joked about never starting a business, but when I started a business, the number one thing is like, you don't even know what to ask, right? When you just get started, I didn't have any mentors. I had no mentors guiding me. I was just figuring this out as I went. And so I wasted a lot of time and a lot of money on trying to figure this stuff out. And if I can save you even a fraction of that time as an indie studio or whatever, it's totally worth it. So let's just real fast, because we're getting a little tight on time, but just about the mentors real fast. As somebody who has helped sort of organize, and I consider you a mentor as well. What do you think about, I mean, you don't have to like chalk up our community about how great our mentors are or whatever, but just sort of the importance of mentors in general, and what kind of value they can add when you have a strong community that also has people that have been in it for a while. Because, you kind of have the students, then you have like the hobbyists, then you have the new people. And then after that, you've got the people that have been around a while, and then those people and the experts coming in and giving back, I think, is an important part of any ecosystem.
Absolutely. And I'm a really big fan of humans. Like, I know that sounds funny to say it that way. I'm a really big fan of humans. I think we're incredibly cool creatures. And one of the biggest things is how we build communities. And how that just seems to be a thing that happens always. Like wherever there are humans, they build communities. And it was a great line from Babylon 5. Like there was one of the alien races observing how humans always build communities. I love Babylon 5. Just side plug. But
I've started watching Babylon 5.
yes,
We are
it's so great.
We're getting towards the end of season 2, which I know is widely considered the worst of the seasons. So,
but I do love Sheridan. Anyway, but like, yeah, I'm a big fan of humans. I think the way that we create communities is so hugely important. And one of the things that we do have to be intentional about is how much our communities just look like us. And that can be interpreted in a lot of ways. And just for the purpose of this conversation, I would say we want to be careful about how much our communities look like us in terms of like our skills and knowledge and vertical. Is that it is so easy to surround yourself with peers who, that's super important, first of all, but it can also limit your ability to grow
mhm.
because you're no longer able to benefit from the knowledge and the wisdom of those who have gone before you, who have accrued different knowledge, who've had different experiences. And also, it doesn't give you the opportunity to interact with people who are new and up and coming at the beginning. And both of those things I think are really critical for you as an individual just to learn and to grow, is being able to benefit from the wisdom of those who know more than you do about something, and then also being able to share your knowledge and wisdom with people who are coming up, behind you and who don't know as much as you do about something. I think having both of those two things are super critical just for your personal growth and development, and for the growth and development of the community.
Yeah.
And if we lock ourselves too much into a group of people who are just like us, or just in the same place as us, or just within the same vertical as us, then we immensely diminish our capability to be creative, to grow, to learn, to increase in wisdom and knowledge. When we did my master's program at Ball State University, it's called the Digital Storytelling Program, and they intentionally designed the program to basically create a cohort of people who are interested in different aspects of storytelling. So people who are in film, people who are in video games, people who are doing this over here and that over there, who are all interested in a broad spectrum of things. And the idea was we'd bring you in, teach you the cores of digital storytelling, and then as you specialize into your given area, you're brushing shoulders with each other. And so you're all learning from one another's unique skill sets and interests. And so that together, kind of like each of you is enriched because you were with a bunch of people who are different than you are.
Yeah.
And I'm just a really big fan of that.
Yeah, there's I forget exactly what it's called, but it's kind of like this 3 stages of growth. It's a model, but the general idea is that whether it's personal or career or whatever growth, you generally want to have 3 people in your life. There's someone that's on the same level as you that you can kind of commiserate with and talk back and forth. Somebody that's more experienced than you that you can learn from and can be a mentor, and then someone that's younger than you that you can act as a teacher for. Because that puts you in 3 different positions of learning and growth, and it forces you to interact. And also, like you said, just having different types of people also keeps, like, for example, I'm a teacher, I'm 44, I teach the intro game design course. Most of the students I have are 18, 19, 20 years old. So it kind of keeps me young, because sometimes they are talking about stuff, and I was like, I do not know what moon man gibberish you're talking about. So it keeps me sort of in the loop a little bit on some of these things. And I think that's very important. And all of this helps build out the ecosystem and the community, because ultimately, as game developers, we are creating experiences for a vast array of people, and understanding those folks, understanding what you're trying to get across, as well as what might be perceived based on what you're doing, is important, particularly when it comes to like, narrative and storytelling. Just that's hard. Like, even just basic blocking of a narrative in a strategic way is challenging. But yeah, I'm super excited about bringing the Sandbox to the next level here, and building on what we've done with GDEX. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, we've said this at Multivarious for a decade, is like our passions are in game development and helping in game design the community. And, we keep the lights on by doing our client work, but we would much rather just help grow the community and help grow GDEX
Right.
and help, promote things like COG like that. That's more in line with what we want to do. And so we're kind of putting our money where our mouth is right now and making it happen. So we'll see how this all works out. But keep an eye on. You can follow us on GDEX and the Sandbox.Space. Yes, .space is a domain name. You can check that out. If you want to join the Discord early, you can do that. But we're bringing new features and stuff online, and we hope that 2026, particularly with what's going on in the games industry and the tech world right now, that the Sandbox might be a place where people can kind of come together and support each other. And we also do. This isn't something like we're super promising right now, but we do work with other larger companies placing developers there. And so if we end up getting into a place where there's a lot of folks that don't have a job, we may be able to get, some of these people placed into, larger mid and AAA studios. But I have no idea what the economy is going to look like. So no guarantees on that. But
no one does.
Yeah. If we can help, happy to help. So awesome, Caleb. That conversation flew by. I appreciate you being here.
Sure
Anything else you want to chat about, or are there any places, social medias, or anything that you want to send people, maybe for your podcast?
Yeah, you can definitely look up the Pages of Play podcast and know we're on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Definitely check that out. I have a sub series on there called Dusting Off the Cover. We've done Chrono Trigger and Missile Command, which are really fun.
I'll have to go.
And
can you send me a link to that on Discord? I would love to. Chrono Trigger is my favorite game. So
yeah. So
you want to see something really cool? Can I end? I'm going to end on something cool. You keep talking, but I'll be right back.
Yeah. So Pages of Play podcast. Also plug for my wife's podcast, The Film Hobbyist. It's 20 to 30 minute essays on film. It's really fantastic, and you can find that anywhere you can find podcasts. The Film Hobbyist. And then obviously like Ogstar Reading. If you have children in your life that you would like to help them learn how to read, we're K through 12. I mean, in theory, the system works for adults as well. But it's for anybody who's interested in helping kids learn how to read, because we think that is super, super, super important.
Yeah, totally. So I got this thing. So Chris Atala, who runs Games Done Legit, who has been our free play console person at GDEX for probably over a decade as well, long time, lives in Ohio. And he pinged me one day just over text. He's just, checking up after this year's GDEX. He's like, hey, how'd it go? How you feeling? And then we kind of just chat back and forth on text. We chat every so often, just to kind of see where we're at and, kind of business colleagues or whatever. And he's like, keep your eye out in the mail for Friday. You should get it Friday. I sent you something. And I was like, oh, okay. What'd you send me or whatever? And the package came and I opened it up and he sent me this Chrono Trigger OST soundtrack. This is the Japanese one from 1997. It's got a little manual insert with all sorts of cool stuff in it. Maybe I should do an unboxing in another video. But yeah, it's got all the discs. It's a 3-disc OST for Chrono Trigger. He sent this to me just as a thanks, because he knew that Chrono Trigger was my favorite game. So it was very generous, Chris. Thank you. That was very sweet of you. But just thought that was kind of funny. And you brought up Chrono Trigger.
Fantastic.
So I got this little collector's thing.
We're definitely big fans of the music around here. We have an MP3 player that the kids listen to it all the time.
Oh, nice. I think the soundtrack for Chrono Trigger is one of the best game soundtracks ever.
Phenomenal.
Made. Yeah,
absolutely phenomenal.
It's phenomenal. There's plenty of other games that have really good soundtracks too, but just the way that they all the tracks kind of thematically weave into each other, and there's different variants depending on what's happening that kind of pulls you emotionally along. It's really good. So again, Chris Atala, thank you. All right, Caleb. Well, this has been episode 82 of the Sandbox.Space weekly podcast. Reminder, you can watch us every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Eastern time on our Twitch, twitch.tv/thegdex. Keep an eye out for the Sandbox.Space information. You can follow us on social media. Also, we're working on some GDEX stuff behind the scenes, so hopefully we'll have some information about GDEX 2026, I don't know, the next 4 to 6 weeks. But otherwise, I really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you, Caleb, for being here. On behalf of myself, Baby, Pumpkin, everyone on the chat, our special guest, Caleb, I want to thank you, and we will see you next week.
Cheers, y'all.